What's up you guys, welcome back and welcome if you're new. In today's video we're going to be talking about the suspension that I have on my Toyota Tacoma, and we're going to be talking about the price of each component. I'm also going to be talking about some suspensions that I've ran in the past, and of course the pricings on those. So if you guys are interested in anything of that, make sure to stay tuned to this video. Okay, so what I have right here in my hand is honestly, I think almost everything that I do have on the Tacoma as far as suspension. So right here, I do have kind of the pricings jotted down as well. So every piece that I do talk about, I'm gonna give you guys the pricing with it. And then towards the end of the video, I'll go ahead and give you guys the totals. Keep in mind, the pricing that I'm giving you guys right now, it's probably not the price that I got it for at the time. And it's also probably not the price that it is gonna be when you go and search it. Pricing changes all the time, so who knows? But at least this will kind of give you a general idea as to how much this whole suspension setup cost. Keep in mind, what we're talking about today is not going to be labor cost. That's going to be another cost on top. So today we're literally just going to talk about the suspension components, the pricing on each of it, and then of course as far as labor, you have to figure that out because I honestly do not remember, so keep that in mind. So what we're going to do, since in the front we do have kind of the majority of it, we're going to start up front right here. So we're going to start up front. So what I have right here is going to be the Total Chaos 2-inch Expedition Series long travel kit. So what that entitles is going to be the bushings, this lower control arm, this upper control arm, and it's going to be just a long travel kit. Cool thing with this bad boy is of course it pushes out the suspension and you just have a lot more travel. With this kit, it actually runs $3,700. Keep in mind, that's literally just a long travel setup. You still need a lot more to go. That being said, when you do get a long travel setup like that, you do also want to gusset your spindles. So I actually went with the Total Chaos gussets, which is right here. So if you guys do know, your spindle is in this section here. It goes from the top of the lower control arm, it attaches all the way down here to the bottom of the knuckle. So it's going to be that whole piece. And you do want to gusset it because now you pushing out the tires like that, when you guys do jump it or anything like that, it does make that spindle actually vulnerable and it can break. So that's why you want to go ahead and gusset them. So I went with, once again, the Total Chaos spindle gussets. I did go with the option of no sway bars because I've also taking those things off when this truck was brand new. I've never ran a sway bar on it, so I got it like that. It was actually cheaper. So that part alone runs $70.79. All right, you guys, so the next thing that I did get up here, and you're not gonna really be able to see it, so I can't really point it out, but it's gonna be the upper coil bucket tower gussets. And reason I did that was because of course I knew I was gonna get the bypasses and all this stuff, so I wanted everything to just kind of be reinforced, and that runs about $120. I also ended up getting the dual shock hoops because I did want to run bypasses up here up front. So that's going to be the one from Total Chaos as well. They call those a secondary shock mount hoop, and that one runs $589. And just in case you guys are curious, that'll fit the Expedition Series or the Race Kit Series. All right, you guys, so another thing that I did get up front right here is going to be the Marlin Crawler lower control arm gussets. And it's going to be like a frame brace, and it's also for the cam gussets. So it's going to be basically this plate here, and a couple down there that you're not going to be able to see. But that just kind of supposedly helps out with alignment when you do go off-road, so it won't throw it off as bad. There may be other kits out there that are better than this, but this is what I went with. Keep in mind, with the Marlin Crawler one, you got to make sure that your skid plate is going to fit when you go to reinstall it, because this does actually take up a lot of space underneath. So when you go to reinstall your skid plate, sometimes it might not fit. You have to might modify it to make it fit. So keep that in mind. I've heard that with other people that run this kit, that their skid plate doesn't end up fitting when they put it back together. All right, you guys, so of course, so with this whole kit, what I also needed to do was get some brand new axles. The stock factory ones will just not work anymore. So no matter if you go a 2+ kit, 2.75, or a 3+ kit and on, you're gonna need to get brand new axles. So that's what I got there. keep in mind on those ones, they're going to run $607 each. So $607 for this side, $607 for the other side. And then they're also going to charge you $175 for each side for the core. So yes, they are going to want your old ones. And if you do want your money back, keep that in mind. Now, if you don't care about $175 each side, then don't return them. Keep your factory ones, doesn't matter. It's a good thing to have, honestly, because if you ever do want to go factory, I mean, you're going to need your factory axles, but it's up to you. If you know you're never going to go back, don't worry about it. Return them, get some money in exchange. All right, you guys, so the next thing that you guys are going to see down here is, of course, with a long travel kit, you're also going to need to buy some brand new coilovers. Keep that in mind. Your mid-travel coilovers or your factory coilovers will just no longer work anymore. You're going to need to purchase new ones. So what I have right here up front is going to be the 2.5 long travel locked off-road coilovers, as you guys can see here. Cool thing with these bad boys is they are adjustable. And as far as me having them from back then to now, these things are actually really nice. They're pretty comfortable, and like I said, I mean, if I ever do need to stiffen them, I can, because I do have adjusters. So these ones do run 1,600 for both sides, so keep that in mind. Now, if you guys do want to go ahead and go the extra mile like I did, I'm going to have you guys come right over here. So if you guys do want to go the extra mile like me, and reason why I got that dual shock hoop is I did end up also getting a bypass from Locked Off-Road. So that's just going to provide a lot more comfort when I am off-road, which, like I said, I've already kind of tested them out, and so far I can't complain. So those are going to run $1,600 as well for both sides. All right, you guys, so now that we talked about the front suspension, I may be missing some things. So if I am, go ahead and comment them down below, or go ahead and DM me and ask me questions on it. I'll let you guys know pricing and all that stuff. Now we're going to go ahead and focus on the rear. All right, you guys, so we're going to go ahead and start off with the back. So what I have back here is going to be the Archive Garage HD Leaf Pack. So that's going to run you about $940 if you guys do get it with the bushings and all the upgraded stuff. All right, you guys, so with that Leaf Pack, I also ended up getting some Duro bump stops. I can't remember the pricing on that, so I'm not even going to lie to you guys, but they're between like $200 and $400. I got them for the front and the rear. Those things are amazing. Another thing that I did back here is, we'll talk about the shock that I have right here. I know it looks super crazy, but if you see in the back, there's like a bracket. And if you see on your Tacoma, your shocks actually end about right here. But on mine, you can see they actually end up way up top here. So what I have done is going to be a shock relocation from Archive Garage. And the cool thing with this is I can now run either a 12-inch or a 14-inch shock back here. Mine is actually a 14-inch. Like I said, we'll get into that in a little bit, but that's what that is right there. They do have different setups. I know some people do run them all the way into the bed. I didn't go like a full long travel system, which would be like a 16-inch shock and up. I just went 14. So keep that in mind. If you guys want to run up to a 14-inch shock, you should be able to run it with this Archive Garage shock relocation kit. And that's going to set you back about $580. Since we're in this area anyway, I wanted to go ahead and talk about the shock that I have. So this thing is actually a 2.5 by 14-inch locked off-road triple bypass shock. One downside to it, actually going to have to tune them with some reservoirs that it has right here. You have to adjust them that way. So it's a little bit more complicated, but if you can afford this, it's awesome. And if you can get someone to actually tune it correctly, it's even better. So just keep that in mind. The rear ones that I do have are the triple bypasses. They have adjusters, so they're just not regular adjusters like the ones I have up front, which they're dummy friendly, like for me, because they have the little clickers. These don't. So the price on these bad boys for both sides, they run about $1,660. So once again, it is a cheaper setup, but it is a high quality setup. You can go cheaper than that, or you can go more expensive depending on the brand you want to go with. But I chose Locked Off-Road because I felt it was like in the middle. It was still good quality, felt nice, and the price was right. All right, you guys, so now coming to the back of the truck, you're gonna notice a couple things. There's a tube up there, there's this big old thing here, and there's this nice looking thing there. So basically what all this is also from Archive Garage. It's gonna be their shackle option, it's gonna be their hangers and their cross tube. So if you guys are planning on doing this kit, I'd highly suggest you purchase all those three together. It's gonna give you a better ride. It's gonna give you a little bit more longevity with this whole system, because without that cross tube, these can bend slightly. They won't bend completely, but they can bend slightly, because of course you're gonna want this kind of like as a slider, so when you hit a rock, it's gonna slide over. So if you don't have that cross tube, just keep that in mind. But if I was you guys, I'd highly suggest just buying that all together, all three, because once again, it's gonna improve the ride quality and it's gonna keep it for a longevity of the product. So those three things, they run about $1,020. All right, you guys, so now that we kind of talked about the whole suspension setup for the front and the rear, I may be missing a couple things, so if I am, just go ahead and let me know and I'll give you guys prices on it. But what we talked about in this whole video, it runs a little bit over $13,000. So if you guys think about it, for a long travel setup, that's actually crazy affordable, because I know some long travel setups, they run anywhere between $15,000 to $20,000. So keep that in mind. Another thing to keep in mind, everything I included as far as pricing does not include labor. This is only if you're getting the parts and doing everything yourself. And I'm also not including the painting, because of course you need to buy some paint for some of these products, because it is going to be a lot of welding. It is going to be a lot of unpainted product that you're going to need to paint. So keep all those little things in mind. This is only pricing on the individual parts as they come from the factory. So if you guys do want to also purchase any of this stuff, I'll try to link everything down in the description box below. In case it doesn't fit, I'm also going to link the install videos when we installed all this stuff, and you can look at those videos, because in those I'll have the direct links to the products if you want to purchase any of these. And with that being said, I did want to let you guys know I've ran a variety of different suspension setups. So this isn't like my only rodeo as far as suspension. This is just the suspension that I've liked so far. I want to say this is probably the longest suspension that I've had on the truck as well. And this is the one that most people, when they ride in it, they tend to like it as well. So with that being said, I'll kind of start from the beginning. I've ran the Bilstein 5100 setup up front and Bilstein 5160 setup with the back, and that whole setup probably runs, I want to say, maybe about $800. So as far as for beginners or someone just that wants to get into it, that's a good setup, because I ran that one on my previous Tacoma for like, I want to say a couple years until I traded it in. And that one was awesome. And like I said, the price I think was under $1,000. I can't remember to the dot of the money, but I know it was less than $1,000. And at that time, I didn't have help as far as getting the products, so that was out of pocket. And I liked it. I mean, it was a budget setup and it ran well. And I think I put, like, on the last Tacoma that I had it on, I think I put like 80,000 miles on it until they finally blew up, but that's when I got rid of the truck, so it didn't matter. The next setup that I did run was, I believe, the Eibach 2.0 front and rear coilover setup. And I'll be honest, I mean, if you guys, so here's the thing, so I'll give you guys the price on that. That one runs, I think, about $700 for just the coilovers up front and the 2.0 shock in the rear. Super easy to install. And I think at that time I had a Dakar leaf pack, and those, the Old Man Emu Dakar leaf pack, and I think that ran about $1,000. So with that setup, when I ran it, I'll be honest with you, I expected more out of it, just because Eibach is a big brand, and I don't know, I just expected more. I want to say, if you guys are in the market, Eibach versus the Bilstein, go with the Bilstein setup. You'll like it way more. It's a little bit more smooth and it lasts long. When I ran the Eibach setup, I did notice, since I did raise it closer to, I think, a 2.7 inch lift up front, I did notice it was super stiff. So if you guys do get the Eibach setup, make sure to keep it as low as possible. That way you can get a nice comfy ride. Because if you do what I did and kind of max them out, because I think that's what I did, it's super stiff and you're gonna hate it. You're gonna hate life. So those ones didn't last on the truck too long. All right, you guys, so the next setup that I did end up going with was the Rough Country Vertex lift. Keep this in mind, you guys. I know Rough Country does have a bad name, but that's more on their like budget setups, which I think those run like $600 or something like that. I'd say stay away from that. But I ended up running their Rough Country Vertex. So what that is they come with remote reservoirs, adjusters, and all that nice. It's nice, trust me. But basically what it was Rough Country 2.5 inch in the front. For the rear, it runs about $900. So that whole setup is just a little over $3,000. So I know on that, you're kind of getting into like King and Fox money if you're going for like a mid-travel setup. But if you guys do want to save some money, you can do that because it is a little bit cheaper. But I will be honest with you guys, I mean, if you throw that on your truck, you're probably going to get people like talk crap to you and stuff like that. Ignore it because they've never tried it. I used to be that person that would be like, oh, look, this guy has rough country setup, until I actually threw it on the truck and figured, man, this thing is nice. So cool thing with that is you can adjust it. So if you have a lot of stuff in the bed or something like that, you can stiffen it, you can lower it, and just the ride quality was pretty nice. I didn't leave them on the truck for too long, I'm not gonna lie, but while I did have them on, I did take the truck off-road. It had nice flex. It had a lot more than the Bilstein and the iBox setup, I can tell you that right off the bat. It had nice flex, it rode nice, and that setup is now on my cousin's truck. So if you guys are following him on Instagram, you'll see he has it on there. And I think in the front, he doesn't have the Vertex though. I think he has like a different shock up there. I can't remember. I know it's from Rough Country, but it's like their new one, so I can't remember the name of it. But yeah, that's a cool setup. If you guys are thinking Rough Country, make sure you go with the Vertex. All right, you guys, so and after the Rough Country setup, I ended up switching to King just to try those out, because everybody says King is the best, King this, King that, and they do look nice, don't get me wrong. I like that blue color, it looks cool. So I ended up switching it out to that. So when I went with that setup, I ended up doing, I believe it was like a extended travel and not a mid-travel setup. I think it was a 2.5 inch in the front, and it came extended travel. It had remote reservoirs, adjusters, and then back here, at that point, I ended up adding the Archive Garage shock relocation, and I ended up getting the King 2.5 smooth bodies back here. And that setup, I want to say, was probably one that I ran for a while. Not as long as the locked off-road, I want to say, but I think I ran it for that long, like, or about. And that setup, if I remember correctly, I think it ran over $4,000. It was anywhere between $4,000 to $4,500, somewhere in that range. And that one was good. Only complaint that I do have about King, and people are probably gonna hate me about this, but in the front, they have like little metal bushings, and those things always blow out. Anywhere between like 10 to 15,000 miles, those things are gonna blow. So if you guys do have a King setup and up front it's squeaking like crazy, keep in mind your little bushings down there, that's probably what's making the noise. Go get them checked out, because they're jiggling in there. If it's already making noise, it's jiggling, and that's not good. You don't want that. And with that King setup, I also had the Camberg X joint upper control arms up front. I think I had the factory ones at the bottom, but those X joints, those run about, I think, $1,000. So keep that in mind. That King setup was a little bit more on the pricey side versus when I had the Rough Country setup. And I want to say they felt about the same. Just price difference was pretty big. I had a couple friends that had King setups on their Tacomas right in it when I had the Rough Country one, and they even said the same thing, that I felt about the same. Don't quote us on this. I mean, if you have a friend with that setup, I'd say write in it first before you think of buying it. But that's just our own opinions and thoughts. After that is when I finally decided, okay, it's time to go a little bit harder. It's time to add a little bit more travel. And that's when I went with this whole locked off-road setup, which for now, I'm gonna leave it on for as long as I can, because I wanna say that's probably the best setup that I've been running, which is what I currently have. And the travel on it, it's pretty insane. I mean, if you guys have seen me in person and seen it flex out, you guys can be the judge of that, of course. But to me, I think this setup that I have currently is nice. So with that being said, I also wanted to let you guys know, you guys can run this exact setup, but run different coilovers and different shocks. You can run like Fox, King, but I can guarantee you the price is gonna jump from this $13,000 setup. It'll probably jump anywhere between 15 to 20,000. And it could jump even more if you guys wanna bed cage your truck and run the 16s and all that. If you have the money, I'd say do it, of course, because one, it looks cool, and then two, it's gonna ride a lot better if you guys are planning going like pre-running or anything like that. I want this truck more to still be usable in the bed and still be able to do all the off-road stuff that I like and flex out enough. So that's why I ended up choosing this whole setup. For you guys, go ahead and just do your research before you start buying things. This video is more to answer your guys' questions as to, you know, what suspensions I've ran, and then pricings on everything and pricing on this current setup that I have. So if you guys do want it, once again, I'll try to link it in the description box below. Just in case I don't, I will make sure to link the YouTube videos when we did all the installs. That for sure will be down there. So if you guys did enjoy today's video, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.
JesseRizo is here for you. It's here for you, not to subscribe.